you very much, Daryl. My name is Dan Newhouse. I want to thank all of you for joining the Western Caucus Foundation Digital Connect. I represent the 4th District of the state of Washington, but I also have the honor of serving as the chairman of the Congressional Western Caucus. So, for over 3 years now, House Republicans have been fighting back against this administration's burdensome anti-energy regulations. Through executive orders, through agency rulemaking, this administration, it seems, has done everything in its power to prevent energy production across the United States. And every time it seems like it goes too far, they seem to outdo themselves by issuing new rules that are even more harmful and destabilizing than the last ones. The recent announcement of guidance that would prevent exports of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, it's easier to say, is only the latest in a string of incomprehensible decisions that have been made by this administration. You know, LNG, it's one of our nation's most important assets. It's by far the most reliable, the most affordable, and one of the most affordable forms of electricity generation that we have. It greatly contributes to our lower energy prices. Despite the onslaught of wind and solar subsidies, the Energy Information Administration predicts that a 50% increase in global energy consumption by 2050 will occur, with fossil fuels leading the way and natural gas remaining the top electricity producer by far. Natural gas also uses the smallest land footprint of any energy generation source. In fact, in 2018, oil and gas production hit new records using the least amount of surface acreage since the BLM started collecting data in 1985. It only takes 3 acres of land to produce a megawatt of energy using natural gas. Compare that to solar energy, which takes 8 acres of land to do the same thing. Once a fracking well is complete, it's finished, it's easily disassembled, and you can leave the landscape essentially perfectly intact. Our allies across the world are increasingly reliant on American natural gas to keep their lights on, and the United States was the global leader for LNG exports in 2023. This reliance on American gas has become even more pronounced following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as you know, and as Europe pivots away from the reliance on Russian gas. Restricting these exports will have a significant impact on global U.S. leadership and our allies' energy security. Additionally, U.S. LNG exports to Europe have a 29% lower greenhouse gas emission than Russian gas, and 32% lower than Russian gas to Asia, meaning that the Biden administration should be championing our exports and not doing everything they can to diminish them. Lastly, exports are crucial to the LNG industry as a whole. I'll tell you why. Revenue earned from the exports goes back into exploration, to research, and also to development, which helps to streamline domestic production and keep prices domestically low. Onshore investment rates have been at an all-time low since 2020 and are struggling to catch back up. That's very concerning. Without the revenue that we receive from exports, domestic LNG production will not receive the investment rates that are necessary to keep the industry running smoothly. So for these few reasons and many others that I'm hoping we'll explore today, it's imperative that we prevent the Biden administration from implementing its pause on LNG exports. And certainly look forward to the comments and conversation on this important topic today. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Chairman. And we also have with us here Congressman Buddy Carter, 1st District of Georgia. He is the chairman of the House Subcommittee on Environment, Manufacturing, and Critical Minerals. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank y'all for being here. This is extremely important. As you heard, I've recently been appointed as chair of the Energy and Commerce, Environment, Manufacturing, and Critical Materials Subcommittee. The environment's important. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District of Georgia, which encompasses the entire coast of Georgia, over 100 miles of pristine coastline. It's a beautiful area. It's where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. I love the environment. Some of my fondest memories growing up were going fishing with my dad. I want to have the same experiences and memories for my sons and for my grandchildren as well. So it is very important to me. And in fact, just to let you know, I also, during the last session, when the Democrats were in control, we had a select committee on climate change. I advocated and lobbied to be on that committee and was on that committee. I feel like it was very important for us to have conservative voices on that committee. I'm also a vice chair now of the Conservative Climate Caucus, as well as co-chair of the Roosevelt Conservation Caucus. So I say all that to tell you that it's extremely important to me. The environment's important to me, and certainly energy is important to me, and it's important to all of us. Some of my priorities as chair of the subcommittee of the Environment Subcommittee are, first of all, to meet China. Let's face it, China's the OPEC of critical minerals, if you will. And one of the things that we've got to do is beat them. Another is to decrease emissions. That's extremely important. Another is to unleash American energy. And a fourth one is to make sure that we are having creating a pro-growth business environment like we have in the state of Georgia. We've experienced a lot of growth in the state of Georgia. In fact, for 11 years in a row, we have been deemed and named the #1 state in which to do business. There's a reason for that. We are very business friendly, but we also have reliable, affordable energy, and that is extremely important to us. And certainly, part of our portfolio is liquid natural gas. In fact, in my district, we have Elba Island, which was a few years ago, converted from an import facility for LNG to an export facility for LNG. That's very important, and certainly something that we are very proud of. But specifically to the pause, if you will, that the Biden administration has put on exports of LNG, which is a de facto ban, is what it is. Not only is it short-sighted, it goes against everything that I've named as being my priorities as chair of the Environment Subcommittee. It's not going to help us to beat China. It's not going to unleash American energy. It's not going to decrease emissions. And it's certainly not going to create a pro-growth business climate. First of all, this is not going to help us to beat China. Secondly, it's not going to decrease emissions. And in fact, I would submit to you that it's going to increase global emissions. All of us know that the climate is a global problem. We could go to net zero emissions here in this country, but unless we get cooperation from other countries, unless they decrease their emissions, it's not going to help. By not sending American LNG overseas to some of these developing countries in particular, they're going to be increasing emissions because they're going to be using Iranian and Russian natural gas, which is a lot dirtier than our natural gas. That's going to increase emissions right there. It's not going to help us unleash our American energy here, and it's certainly not going to be conducive to a pro-business climate and environment for us here in this country. So it's just short-sighted, and I think it's the wrong thing to do. That's why I support Representative Pfluger's Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act, and I'm glad that he's doing that, and I support that act. You know, it's important that we address this because we should be the leader here. We should be the leader here in America, in the world. Again, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about pollution, about greenhouse gases, we're talking globally. We're not just talking about America. We're talking globally. And this doesn't help us to address it globally. It doesn't help the world to address it globally. So everything is wrong about it. That's why, again, I oppose this. They can call it a pause all you want, but we know what it is. ban, essentially, it will evolve into a ban. This is state versus the administration of office. They have declared war on fossil fuels. I believe in all of the above type of strategy. I've had the opportunity to travel to Europe with the Conservative Climate Caucus and to see the mistakes that they have made over there, where they have allowed their policies to get ahead of innovation. We should not allow that to happen here in America. We are the innovators. I've always said it, the greatest innovators, the greatest scientists are right here in the United States of America. If you look at what our fossil fuels have done, and here in America, you'll see that we've decreased emissions over the last decade. Fossil fuels, we've decreased our carbon emissions here in the United States of America more than the next 12 countries combined while still growing our economy. We can do it. And one of the ways we've done it is through the use of LNG. That's why we should be exporting and sharing. So thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Chairman Carter. And those of you who realize we connect the dots, the Western Caucus does have a member from Georgia.
The easternmost member.
The easternmost. I think you and Rouser from North Carolina argue over that position, but the Western Caucus has grown from its early days as just being Intermountain West and talking about federal lands to basically representing rural America across the country. And so the caucus has grown to over 100 members in the House of Representatives, 28 members and growing in the Senate. So we get folks from all over the country talking about these issues. Now I'd like to turn over to a couple of our guest speakers here today, and I'll start with Heather Reams, President of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions.
Thank you, Daryl. It's great to be here at Newhouse. It's great to be with you. I'm Heather Reams, and I'm President of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions. And it is a pleasure to be here with you all today. CRESS is we call it Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions, called CRESS. Is a nonprofit organization based here in Washington, D.C. We work with lawmakers and the public to advance conservative, common sense solutions to accelerate in all of the above energy portfolio. We want to increase American competitiveness, reduce reliance on foreign adversaries, all of which result in lowering the cost for American families and reducing global emissions. A lot of the comments that we've heard already from our esteemed members certainly highlight the fact that we can have a balance, and that's what we believe that U.S. LNG can do. We are dismayed to see that this de facto or essential ban from the Biden administration on U.S. liquefied natural gas exports is harmful for a number of reasons. But my organization really focuses on reducing emissions, technologies to reduce emissions when it comes to energy production. And the point I want to leave you all with, and I'll start with it and I'll leave with it, is that we need to lower emissions. LNG, U.S. natural gas, is part of the solution. What this feels like more than anything, particularly in 2024, is the administration's far-left progressive wing taking over for political purposes in an election year rather than seeing the global realities and just applying common sense. The fact is that the United States leads the world in emissions reductions thanks to natural gas. The innovation that we had with the shale revolution that has lowered our costs and lowered our emissions, going in a separate direction or another direction, it just boggles the mind. And as an advocate for clean energy, we need to be looking at the realities right now that we need all the above energy. We need it all. We need American homegrown energy. And that's considered affordable, reliable, and clean. And that's exactly what U.S. natural gas is. The demand for energy global is not going away. It continues to increase. In fact, according to the Nonpartisan Energy Information Administration, the global demand for natural gas is expected to increase almost 60% in the coming decades. Yet we are rolling back the production of natural gas. That is a global reality that we need for LNG. We need to focus on, as a country, focusing on the realities and not what radical climate activists want the president to do in an election year. In addition, we have national and global security implications. Biden's attack on LNG will result in increased environmental harm. Capitalism and market economies reward efficiency and innovation, making the United States a world leader in emissions reductions and one of the most efficient producers in the world of LNG. If we cut off natural gas, we are not only weakening global security and national security, we are pushing our allies, like the European Union, to dirtier sources of fuel. Take, for example, Russian natural gas was exported to Europe. It results in a 41% more emissions profile than U.S. LNG exported to Europe. Think about that. This is a pipeline closer to Europe. We take our LNG, we turn it, and we ship it across the ocean. We give it to the European allies, and it's still 41% less emission profile. So to say that we need a ban on this for environmental reasons defies logic. What that means when you're talking about 41% lower profile, I don't know what some of these numbers mean, but it's 218 million tons lower of emissions. That's like the country of France in 1 year of their emissions we're talking about. So these are big numbers with big problems that the administration is creating by eliminating natural gas ban, eliminating natural gas for a climate benefit. It is absolutely the opposite. And we also know this is the record. This isn't just a political year stunt. This is also something we've seen from the beginning. We've seen the pipeline, the ban on the pipeline coming through from Canada. Nord Stream 2, though, and coming from Russia, approving it. The idea is to turn off the U.S. spigots and turn them on someplace else to our detriment. It doesn't make sense. Finally, I'll say that, again, the election year piece of it really just is irritating. As an advocate for clean energy and being here at for so many years now, and talk about why we need natural gas, to think that this is in the name of climate is just insulting organizations and advocates like me who know otherwise. The Biden administration needs to become clear about why they're cutting off LNG. They need to be supportive of bills like Representative Pfluger and his bill that passed, I think, today. Yes, we're supportive of that. And we need to get rid of hypocrisy and start taking care of American people. The American people should know the difference. They should know, if they don't know the difference, they know it now. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Heather. Appreciating your input on this. And yes, I think we have a member of Congress with an exciting announcement about a bill that just passed today. It's Congressman Pfluger from the 11th District of Texas, West Texas, where they produce a lot of this natural gas.
I'm not sure this is. It's obviously not running on natural gas. Okay, well, that was not working. And I see we have a camera, so we'll probably. There we go. Okay. Thank you all for having me here. It is exciting day. It's a pleasure to join you on this and to be able to talk about something that, although coming in just a little bit late from a good day, catching the tail end of what's important. And that is that we have a bipartisan bill to protect our LNG exports that passed it. Multiple Democrats joining on because they know just how egregious decision this is. And so, when you think back to the energy story that we have in this country, we didn't start exporting LNG until 2016. And in the early 2000s, towards 2008, 9, and 10, I think there was a prevailing thought that maybe we had reached what they call peak oil, that we didn't have the ability to actually extract natural gas. What a tool and a resource this has been. What a positive story for our country this has been. And when you consider that we've only been exporting for about 8.5 years, 8 years now, this is a massive geopolitical tool that not only benefits our country, has helped producers continue to keep the price down low, has a competitive advantage around the world, and then with the nefarious actions of countries like Russia invading Ukraine, it gives us the ability to then provide a very needed resource, something that every country that I've visited, many of my colleagues would say the same thing, they want, because it is clean, it is efficient, it is reliable, and we should be that reliable partner. So on January 26th, when we heard the news that there was going to be a temporary pause, which I took as an effective ban. That's really what we're talking about here. It's an effective ban using time as a weapon. We knew how important this legislation would be. And you really think about the promise that the administration made to Europe last year when President Biden said, we want you to stop using Russian gas. We want you to not give Putin any more minutes on his delivery and revenue generating product of natural gas to Europe. He said, fine, that's great. Where are we to hear from? The president said, we will deliver to you. I think the number was 50 BCM over a period of time. Well, when you don't continue to produce and expand, you can't just turn this spigot on with a light switch, then you are effectively banned. The administration has a track record of very lengthy and slow approval process for the permitting of these expansion projects anyways. This was going to be an effective ban for almost at least 2 years, maybe more, depending on the results of the next election. But I was very proud to see today a number of Democrats who decided to really be on the right side of history, which is to use a source of fuel that is at least 40% cleaner than its counterpart in Russia. And that is according to the Department of Energy, by the way, that's fact. And to continue to allow us to have that tool of geopolitical power that we can back up our allies and back up our partners. Big day for us. Cautiously optimistic there will also be like-minded thinkers in the Senate that will do the right thing, that will come to the table and push back on the administration for what I think was a very egregious overreaching decision. And I'm happy to see us in the House pass that today.
Before I stop here, do you have a counterpart in the Senate carrying that bill?
Sure do. Senator Tim Scott, who you know well, is the holder of the Senate companion, and I look forward to working with him to try to get this. Thank you.
Sorry, folks, didn't get us the microphones here. Okay, next speaker. This is from a Western Southern District perspective, States and Tribal Initiative, a study on LNG exports a short while ago, and Bryson Cole here is going to talk about that and findings from that study.
Thanks, Joe. I'm Newhouse, Pfluger. Thank you for your time and attention today. My name is Bryson Hall. I'm Vice President of Western States and Tribal Nations Natural Gas Initiative, better known as Western Wesley Shorter, which is a unique organization. It's transnational, led by state, county, and sovereign tribal nations. And we have New Mexico, Wyoming, Utah, Southern Tribe, Hickory Apache Nation, and the state of Baja California, Mexico as members at the moment. So we have 3 missions, 3 goals in our mission, actually, and that is to create real economic development, which these projects do, and support tribal self-determination, and get Western North American natural gas to international markets via LNG. And unfortunately, we can't really do that out of the West Coast. So Weston began in the great American tradition of bipartisanship as an idea and an effort between the then governors John D. Hoover of Colorado and Gary Kirk of Utah to solve that particular riddle. Getting to Asia is important because that's where 3/4 of the demand for LNG is going to come from through 2040 at least. So the halt to export approvals concerns our members greatly. I won't call it a ban. I'll call it a ban. It's what it is. We've seen it before it's gone and we should just say what it is. But it hinders our ability to issue the 3 tenets of our vision. And I found that the unhelpful rhetoric around it is really clouding the reality of what LNG is in the United States. And I'd like to clear some of that up today. Our president, Andrew Browning, said we're in a battle for the truth about LNG and its actual impact on the global environment and our power as a nation. Nearly 2 decades of journalists working all over the world, I could not agree more. So factual short supply of wanted rhetoric, and we're at stock with disingenuous characterizations from opponents this stage. I'd like to share some of those facts and demonstrate why this decision is not just a pause. If we didn't just hit the button on the remote, you're going to snap here. This is a risk policy decision that affects billions of dollars investment in American innovation and American strength in the global stage at a very perilous time in the world. So true or false, LNG is a dirty legal business, 100% false. Started to consider carbon emissions. We're always, we are in fact a low methane intensity gas. It's happening in the Rockies. It's a Rockies revolution. Some of our methods are producing low methane intensity natural gas that is 1/10 industry average. They did this on their own because there's customer demand for it and because regulation is getting stronger. And they brought that to such a low level. It's a classic example of how America did this. And it's also a good story of how government intervention or government interaction should happen. The Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy Carbon Emissions has actually been working with them to assemble a group just to talk about best practices. That's the proper role of our agencies, supporting the good work being done by Americans, which is how we solve almost all of our greatest challenges in the nation: space race, nuclear age, the internet. Government supports, private sector innovates and commercializes. Jobs are created, income are raised, and Americans benefit. This halt, that's what is going to get in the way. It's the opposite approach. Jobs are at risk. Innovation is hampered America's ability to export and success. That's what LNG is. It's the ability to export our success for 2 decades, producing the largest. True or false? LNG exports will raise domestic prices. 100% false on its face, and it is market reality. Last year, we became the world's largest exporter of natural gas. Where are natural gas prices? They were a third lower in the 2021 price, and they are basically lower than the 10-year historical Henry Hub average, according to the EIA. We did our own analysis of that, which we presented in a letter to Energy Secretary Grant in November. We found that prices were remaining close to that average up to 2050 on an inflation-adjusted basis. We used the EIA's own LNG analysis from last year and their data, as well as market data from the NYMEX Henry Hub futures contract, which reflects the real market. We found that even in the lowest supply, highest export, and highest international price market scenario, inflation-adjusted prices have been rated right about $3, right where they've had been for a long time. So that argument is completely false, and the reason is because companies here are free to respond. We have the headroom, we have the resources, so we just amp up supply. It's what happened with the shale revolution. It's what's happened with the gas, and we need to create the environment, the business environment that allows that. Another one I'd like to call out, true or false, Europe supports this decision. We were told there was a letter of the 60 members of European Parliament that was, showed that Europe wanted to monitor after the fossil fuel. That letter comes from 60 Marxists and Green members of the European Parliament and does not reflect who the other 700 odd members of the Parliament view. Our own conversations, our allies are on edge. They all know that American LNG filled the gap, and that was an industry-led effort that was rightfully lauded by this administration, but it's classic American behavior. There's a problem, we have a solution, we're out there, we're helping our friends and allies. Russia tried to weaponize energy, and we defused the threat. And again, why? Because our economy is free. I would say true or false, investment in the future will be fine, and in any case, if it isn't, new LNG export terminals will be stranded assets. False on 2 counts. American presidents believe public can send powerful signals that affect investor sentiment. If I'm investing in a 20, 30-year project and I hear, I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to get the permits for that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to think about that investment. There are billions, tens of billions of dollars, thousands of jobs at stake. So just even flagging that this is an idea is bad for business. And it's not something we order in the nation. I spent a lot of time overseas. People will look at the ease of doing business reported by the World Bank and talk about that. And every country, it's like, oh, well, you're not very easy to do business. If we didn't edit that report, when it comes to fossil fuels, I would think we might be a little bit low in rankings there. And our members are particularly concerned about this because we have projects that are root out of Mexico and Mexico. And those projects are involved. So just in closing, I wanted to make a point. Asia, I mentioned, is expected to drive 75 to 80% of the world's LNG demand growth. We can either be part of that, American companies can be part of that, or we can sit it out and let Russia do it. And that's the point that Japan's Vice Minister for the Minister of Economy and Trade and Industry made at the DC Forum to us last year. Russia will completely succeed, he told us. And the biggest loser is the environment, because it's dirty options, and that's the goal. We can export our success, or we can stay here and move on. Thank you.
Thanks. A little awkward, we only have one more mic now. But I'll turn it over to the chairman.
Well, thank you, Darrell. Thanks to our guests, Representative Pfluger, for joining us. So we passed the bill out of the House with an overwhelming, strong bipartisan. It now goes to the Senate. For people listening today, I want to make sure no one takes for granted the output here. What can folks do to help the bill get a hearing in the Senate and also a positive vote? My own humble opinion, love to have as many people as possible reach out to the Senate. Perhaps a statement by the importance of communication with the Senate.
I'm sure we both have thoughts here. As a grassroots organization, we are going to be reaching out to a lot of our own members. But I can't underscore the importance of people who would support, would be appalled really by the Biden administration for putting a ban on LNG. If you're an environmentalist, if you care about the environment, if you care about global security, if you care about economic prosperity in our country, if you want the United States to be a leader and help the rest of the world, you would call your member of Congress and let them know that they should be opposed President Biden's ban on LNG wholeheartedly and supporting any member who is both sponsoring, co-sponsoring, and getting to sign on. This is a bipartisan issue. This is not a radical issue. This is a radical issue.
Mr. Pfluger, your question? When we come up and talk about these things, we have a specific audience that is listening to it. Whether that's on one network or certain outlets that are covering it, how do we get this message out to maybe that middle 10% that they care about what our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are saying about climate, and they're listening maybe to, instead of the facts that you just presented and very well presented, they're hearing the myth and not the reality. So how do we as an industry get the message out effectively to bring over that 10%? Like we brought over Democrats today, maybe, instead of putting a political party on it, how do we convince those that maybe are not convinced right this second throughout the country that LNG truly is a gift. And instead of squandering it, let's use it because it raises the quality of life, it raises our economic prowess, it's obviously a national security tool. How do we go out there and get that middle 10% of our country that needs to be convinced?
Thanks for the question. I think one of the most important things you can do is you've got to talk about facts. I'm a journalist, so I train in experience, facts knowledge. And I know sometimes in politics you gloss over facts, but in something like this, you've got to talk. So what you have to talk about is what does it do? This is helping Americans. This is helping us. The more gas we produce, the lower our prices are. You have to go to folks and you have to call them out untruth. And I feel that sometimes the energy industry is very reluctant to say, hey, we have an organized group of folks here that just beat on us all day long. Remember one person one day in the company said, I just get punched in the face every day. You can't respond to that. You've got to go back, you've got to challenge, you've got to talk, and you've got to make the case to Americans as Americans. And as she said, what about the issue? This is about our power. If you think about it, it's a combination of soft power and hard power. The economic might, military might, and then it's the soft power of persuading folks, hey, we're increasing this technology. And that's what I told you about the 110, I think it's nobody's telling that story. I'm trying to tell that story, we're working at telling that story. But you've got to just keep at it and realize that this is actually a counter-propaganda effort as much as it is a straightforward communication effort, honestly.
I think also what's important is the bipartisan vote that we had today. I think a lot of Democrats do want to vote, wanted to vote for that bill, sir. And then we really saw, I think it's an election year. The American people know it's an election year too, so they should be fooled by the politics that are happening and surging right now in 2024. I'm also struck by the and highlight the talking points from both sides of the aisle. For some reason, the Democrats have decided economic works in a different way on this bill. We produce less and prices go down, we produce more. I don't understand the economics. So I do think the facts do matter here and highlight, well, which is it? Instead of this and not this. And I think people right now should be, rightfully so, a little more skeptical about what's coming out. And you know, we have a bipartisan vote with it. In the Senate, we should have even bigger margins. It's just, it just feels like it's politics as usual, and really playing politics with something that's so important to our country and the stability of our world.
Commentary. I think it's also important to reference Europe. We don't talk about that enough. Germany's industrial base is going like this, and their energy prices are 3 times the international average. So these are not cut policies. And we don't talk about the fact that this policy being proposed are kind of outside the American political spectrum. I think that helps.
Do we have any questions from attendees here? The panel or the members? Okay, yeah, we're still set.
Well, members of the audience are thinking of the questions. It's reportedly one of the reasons the administration took this action was concern for the environment. I wonder if you guys have helped people understand. We've been throwing a lot of numbers out here. The American gas is so much cleaner than Russian gas. I've talked about different percentages of how much better it is. Help us explain that that's not just American bottom, the domestically sourced fuel that we want to sell to our foreign enemies. Could you put some credibility behind those claims?
I'm just going to make an observation. Folks who recalled it on G, the French company, hit back the cargo about it. He said, no, it's too good. You know, it's too high emission. That is what we thought the customer demand for cleaner fuel. So it's not, this is being done without government intervention. This is the market speaking and asking for us to do this. And President Carter's right, we're a leader in it. We tell that story. And too often we hear, oh, America hasn't done enough. You go to COP28 or these things for America's never done enough. Actually, no, we haven't. And we're not building coal plants at the rate of 100 to 300 a year. So we need to start telling that story and also just point out that these things are actually getting done. These are innovations. We can't accept our framing that fossil fuels are terrible. They're not. They do a whole lot of good. The more we talk about the good, the more we talk about the fact that it's a safety first business, start there. Get away from this whole presumption that everything's going to blow up and stop it.
It's a great question because as a frequenter of talks, including the most recent one in COP28 in UAE, it was talked about fossil fuels need to be banned if we're going to protect the environment, and that is just false. It's a feel-good mechanism. We know, and I've spoken some fruit to that, but we do know that intra-fuel switching, so between coal, moving from coal to natural gas, and using more natural gas, the U.S. has reduced emissions in some other countries. Our organization, our C3 arm organization, Press Forum, produced a paper a year and a half ago talking about how U.S. fossil fuels should play a crucial role in reducing global emissions. So that is not just, we're citing mostly government data. So this is not the U.S. bravado. Well, of course, there is some part of that. But the U.S. has always been part of solutions around the world. But it is the idea, I am a right-of-center organization that focuses on clean energy production and reducing emissions. There is a difference between the fossil fuels that are produced in Venezuela or Russia or Iran and other places is not as clean as it is in the United States. Of course it's not. We have rigorous standards. Some standards and regulations that we complain about here is true, I'm sure. We complain about them, but they do produce cleaner outcomes. We protect our human rights when we're doing this. We're protecting our workers. We're safe, and we're providing something that the world needs. So I think there's just a number of layers there that the American people need to understand. And having the U.S. lead in this area, continuing to lead, is part of having a government world.
Great. Thank our guests for joining us here today. It was a fantastic discussion, fantastic presentation. Thank you both. Thank you, Congressman, for joining us. Mr. Chairman, would you like to close this out?
Thank you. Thank you, Darrell. Appreciate everyone's participation on such an important topic. Congratulations to Congressman Pfluger for a successful vote today on the Caucus bill that will really set the stage for pushing back on the Biden administration's determination to continue its battle against domestic energy production. So thank you all for being here. Thank our listeners for paying attention to a very important topic, and we look forward to seeing you with you very soon from the Western Caucus. Thank you.
Thank you all.